99.1 CKXS, time once again for the All About Real Estate show, where our buddy Pete Allaer joins us today from Riverside Realty to come in and talk a little bit about real estate. How are you doing today?
Good, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So today's topic, we wanted to talk a little bit about the financing side of your properties and the difference that there is maybe out there when it comes to buying residential or commercial, because there is a little bit of a difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's a difference, if you're buying, a single-family home, your first home, where you're going to live. There's a difference between down payments for that versus if you own a home and now you want to buy a residential rental home, then there's some different rules around down payments for that. Right. And then again, if you want to buy maybe a mixed use commercial residential as an investment, there's also differences there when it comes to down payments.
Yeah, this is going to be a good eye opener for people that are considering. Maybe you've got some extra cash right now and you're thinking, property values are going up. It's good to always own real estate. So let's say you're a homeowner and you want to buy a duplex. What do they need to know about that?
So the first thing you have to know is when you're buying something like that, typically your bank is going to want minimum 20% down. So the 5 and 10% minimum down payments that would apply when you're buying your own home where you're living, that does not apply. Now, I say that depending on your institution because, some banks, depending on what sort of other assets you may have or the relationship, they may have a few little areas to bend the rules. But generally speaking, you need 20% down minimum when you're buying a second dwelling. Right. The other thing you have to remember when you are buying rental properties, you have to look at what you're buying, if there's tenants and if there's not tenants. And you have to be also aware that if you're buying a rental property that has tenants and you're going to continue to use it as a rental property, you inherit the tenant when you buy it. And you inherit whatever rent the tenant is paying as well. So you can't buy a rental property and just say to the seller, "Oh, I want this vacant." Mm-hmm. You can't do that.
It's a very good point. I think people aren't aware of that, and they might start doing the math of owning the property, thinking that the rent that they're going to get is more than what they're planning on. Or actually less than what they're planning on. They're thinking about charging more. Exactly.
The rent today is less than what, let's say, market rent might be. So you have to be aware of that. And you also, so if you're buying a property to move in yourself, that's different. Then you have the right to get that as a vacant property. But if you're buying this property and you're going to continue to rent it out, there's some different rules. So there's the 20% down. The other thing, sometimes with a rental property, you may not get quite as good of an interest rate from the bank as you would if you're buying as your own home. Right. So that's another thing to consider. But with the rules around the Tenancy Act with residential rentals, you just have to be aware that you would inherit that tenant, and I mean sometimes that's a good thing, right?
It's funny. I think you mentioned this back a couple of weeks ago that it used to be a good thing that you were going to buy a property that already had tenants because you didn't have to worry about renting it out. There were probably good tenants, and you were good to go.
Yeah, exactly. And still today, I mean, there's something to be said about a good tenant. Correct. For sure, right? 100%. So if you have a really good tenant that's paying and looking after it, that's worth some money. So, but again, just like we talk a lot on this show about just going in with your eyes wide open, and I'm a firm believer of that. Just know what you're up against, what the rules are, what you have to, abide by. So then if we go one step further into a building like this one, for example. Yep. So if you're buying this building as an investment, it's a mixed use commercial residential. Typically these buildings need minimum 40% down, which again, if you're buying $100,000 unit, that's $40,000, right? Mm-hmm. You're buying a $300,000 unit, that's $120,000. So it can be a fairly large amount of money, and I get because we have had some commercial properties for sale, typically like specifically downtown here.
Yep.
We've had a few of them, and some mixed uses where it's commercial, residential, and I had a lot of calls on them where people were like, oh, well, 10% down.
Right.
And you're like, well, sorry, but...
Unless, one of the other options would be then private investors that sometimes you can get because, they're the first ones, though, they get paid in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
You got to keep that in mind. But, there are those private investors that sometimes will loan money.
Absolutely. We do, we have some contacts of those types of people that would lend, private money. Typically, private money interest rates are higher.
Yep.
Typically, if you're buying a mixed-use commercial property, interest rates are also higher. Right. So again, we're looking at sort of these different avenues and different finance rates and different down payments and stuff, and you have to just know that. And
do you do that, Pete? So would that be something? So let's say I'm interested in a property downtown in Chatham or Wallaceburg or wherever it may be, and I call you on the phone. I'm interested in this property. Can you walk me through what typically my initial upfront costs are going to be? You can help them with all of that stuff?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah,
because that makes it easy for them. And they can kind of understand, like you said, eyes wide open, what it's going to cost them.
Yeah, and I mean, we have agents in our office with lots of experience. I mean, and I personally have lots of experience in that because I've been involved on the ownership side of it. I have rental properties myself, so I'm aware of kind of all the ins and outs of how how the financing works, and then how the rental, like the different some of the rules. I mean, the rules are much stricter with residential versus commercial, but also there are rules in there too on the tenants and the increase in rents, and and so there's it's a great investment. These are all good investments, but they just have they're not, and I've said this before, they're not for everybody. But if you go into it with knowing knowing what's going to happen, knowing what you need to put down, knowing that okay, if I'm purchasing this, and I always talk about when we're talking like these properties that were for sale around town that were mixed use. I would go through it with these buyers and say, okay, let's sit down and go through exactly what we're talking about here. So, the property's $300,000, so you're gonna probably need 120 down. Sometimes you'll need appraisals done. Typically with residential appraisals, quite often the banks will pick those up.
Right.
Commercial appraisals go from, instead of $300 or $400 for a residential appraisal, you're talking maybe $2,500, $3,000 for a
100%. Yeah.
Right. So and chances are you as a buyer will pay that. So there's a lot of things that again you need to know before you jump. And I would personally suggest, if anyone is thinking about maybe doing this, getting into maybe some commercial residential mixed use or just straight commercial, reach out to us well in advance, so that you can, because you talk about get your ducks in a row, like you're going to have a lot more ducks to get into a row here, right? Because there's more to it.
It's a big family of ducks.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not discouraging people from doing this. I'm just saying make sure that you know what you're getting into, and I mean, as far as the rental business today, it's good. I mean, there's as far as residential, I mean, the vacancy rates have never been so low.
Yeah, no problem getting it rented out, that's for sure.
No, and even, it even seems as though the mixed-use commercial residential, there seems to be pretty good demand. I mean, we've sold 3 or 4 of them here in this year, and they've, everyone has been happy. The buyers and sellers have been happy with the price, and so it's just a great, the market is so interesting because right now, it seems like whatever we get listed, there are buyers out there for it.
Good.
It doesn't seem to matter what it is. There's buyers out there looking. So
this is good. This is great information for somebody who's considering, kind of getting into the real estate market a little bit and buying another property that they can use as an investment. I mean, they can be very helpful. I mean, talk about some of the listings that we have in the area coming up in just a little bit. It's the All About Real Estate Show on 99.1 FM. 99.1 CKXS, time for our second segment on the All About Real Estate show. Okay, it's listing time. What do you got for us this week, Pete?
Yes, we have a pretty good list. Like I said earlier, we're getting listings and they're selling, and we're getting new listings. So it's sort of giving us some better choices for buyers, or a better range. I'll start with one listing at 555 Nelson Street, which is a lot. So someone that's looking to build their own house. It's a 50 by 100 lot on Nelson Street. The next one down is 670 Albert Street. It's a nice little one-floor, two-bedroom, great retirement home, or, if you're a single person and you'd like a home, good shape. It's 149.9. Then we go down Elgin Street to 1501 Elgin. It's a semi, one of the semis. There's a group of semis down there. I believe it's the first semi. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And those are nice semis, actually. There's quite a bit of space in those, and they got a nice deep backyard, and it's at 199. It's a nice unit.
What street's that on again?
Elgin.
Right.
1501 Elgin Street. Then just around the corner here, we've got I believe it may not be a first time offered, but certainly first time in a long time offered. It's 327 Camp Street, and it's a nice. It has a carport with a shed in behind, and one floor living, and I believe it's a 3-bedroom as well. It's 229. Then we go over to VLA, 33 Chestnut. This is a really nice redone home on Chestnut at 349.9. Then we'll swing over to towards Port Lambton to Ward Line. We've got one in the country there, just quarter mile off of 40 Highway, west on Ward Line, 419 Ward Line. It's a nice country property. It's an acre property. It's got a 4-bedroom house that's been refurbished, and a nice garage and lots of space. It's at 399. Then we'll drive to Dresden. We'll go over to 285 Queen Street, Dresden. A nice property there for sale. And while we're heading that direction, we'll go all the way to Rodney. I've got a place in Rodney, yes. It's on Furnival Road, right? Sort of call it downtown Rodney, 165 Furnival Road. And this place is gorgeous. It's a large Victorian style home.
I can almost picture it.
It's beautiful.
Right, like towards the downtown.
It's in the downtown of Rodney. You kind of drive a little bit through Rodney, and it'd be on the east side of the road. This place this place is like fantastic. Like walking through it was like walking through a museum. It was so cool, like beautiful woodwork and character and beautiful light fixtures and nice decks, and the balcony up top that you walk out from upstairs, and really, really nice and very, very well kept, like nice updates. So if you're interested in moving towards Rodney, it's an awesome spot. So
might be a good fit for somebody who's maybe working in Chatham and their spouse is working in London. You got kind of a halfway point.
Exactly, for sure. So we've had some decent listings coming up, and I would suggest anyone thinking about selling their house, reach out to us early so that we can help you, walk you through the things you need to do, and we have. Our services we do lots of drone videos and 360s and, really nice photos. And, of course, our advertising on the radio and on Facebook and website and print. I mean, we get it out there. We get it everywhere. And that's the key to the market today is you need to get your home exposed to as many buyers as possible. And that's how you will, get the best return. So
good. Good information. It's the All About Real Estate show with Riverside Realty. Contact one of the realtors for more information. Pete, thanks a lot for this week's show. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Okay. Thank you.